You already know. It's Kappa Kappa. Young millionaires. The general. Okay, I wake up every day, I'm feeling good, I'm feeling great. Every day I'm getting paid, man, this life is going great. I just wanna celebrate, I made it in and out of state. $1 million in the case, I got it hidden somewhere safe. I multiply all my millions and really I am extremely wealthy. I distributed my millions with my family. This is just the beginning, I purchased a Lamborghini. Driving around the city, believe me, you haven't seen me. Made it through all the struggle, defeated all of my rivals. I was never entitled, I had to fight for survival. Man, this life is amazing, it's crazy the way we made it. Now I'm living my dreams and I'm barely just getting started. I'm a millionaire. I'm just living life. Classy, every day I'm classy. Gotta recognize the realest person on the fashion. Classy, every day I'm classy. Gotta recognize the realest person on the fashion. I made it through the struggle back when I was very worried. Now I'm chilling, get my condo, Lamborghinis and Bugatti. I know you in a hurry, but I promise don't be worried. When you see me in a club or party, got enough to party. I'm a multi-millionaire, getting money everywhere. I ain't tripping on nobody, I just came to celebrate. Yeah, we got the party popping, got the general over here, throwing money in the air, cause we get it every day. I multiply on my millions, now me and my people winning. Moving city to city, I promise that you will see me driving a Lamborghini, but this is just the beginning. $1 million Bugatti, I'm stacking money in the ceiling. Multiply on my millions, now me and my people winning. Moving city to city, I promise that you will see me driving a Lamborghini, but this is just the beginning. $1 million Bugatti, I'm stacking money in the ceiling. I'm a millionaire. I'm just living life. Classy, every day I'm classy. Gotta recognize the realest person on the fashion. Classy, every day I'm classy. Gotta recognize the realest person on the fashion. God for us life we live, it is our blessing. We have all we'll need. This is why I'm sitting by that we have all
Good afternoon, boys and girls. Here we are with the Truth Podcast with the Jen. We got the Big John. We got Winston here.
Back at it.
What's up, guys? How's you guys going today, huh?
Just killing it, man. Killing it. What do you got new?
Life is crazy. Just kind of moving, and I want to jump into this subject right away. Is, you know, I've been from last podcast. I got literally like 50 messages on how people are able to identify with what we're talking about. But the real key factor that we're getting today is where is everyone's mental temperature, right? Where are we at with your mental temperature, and where is it at? And is the shit that's really going on in your life, is it really that big that it's causing you to make bad decisions? Mm-hmm. Or we got a lot of these kids that are actually committing suicide because they can't see their friends. And is life that bad that you're looking at it where it's just, am I going to call it quits, or am I going to make decisions that are going to dramatically affect me for the long run?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, and that's something it's good to reflect on that because, you know, like in discussions we've said before, everyone's going through stuff. No one's life is perfect.
No one's life is perfect.
But the biggest thing is how are you reacting to the situations that are coming up in your life? Because like you said, you're paving the future. So something goes south right now, say I get pulled over by a cop, get a traffic ticket. Then I go into work all pissed off, right? Give my boss attitude, all this. That one little ticket and the way I reacted to it, spiral effects. The next thing you know, you piss your boss off, you piss your colleagues off, your work environment sucks. Then you get home, then you're like, oh, work sucked, my boss was a dick, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then you end up pissed.
Or worse, you get fired.
Or you get fired.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or you lose clients, something bad can totally, or you get home, get all trashed, jump in the car, get a DWI.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's a small example of one little thing, and how you react to it can affect your entire life. We're all one choice away from.
And I think that the thing is about it is like, we talked about this last time, you know, with the stimulus checks, right? We got a bunch of individuals on the stimulus checks, they're called back to go to work, and they're refusing to go to work. Say, you know what? Well, I'm making $600, but in the grand scheme of
Extra
things,
on top of the
on
unemployment.
top of
Yeah,
it,
with
right?
the unemployment too.
So is that 1,800 you possibly, or even 2,400 that you made, is that going to hold you to the long haul all the way past December of 2021? And again, that's living in the moment like the grasshopper, right? And not planning for the future. So those bad decisions, and again, it's that mental stability. One, I let the laziness sit inside my mind, and so I'm going to go ahead and allow myself to just say, you know what, I need a break. I've been working a long time, and you're like, fuck, dude, you're 20 years old.
Looking for an excuse.
Yeah, what work have you put in?
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
You're 50 years old.
Yep.
And so that's one, right? And then you got the individuals that maybe have things going on in their lives. They've had deaths, or they've allowed, family members' opinions or just shit in life get to them. And all of a sudden, they're making stupid ass decisions that are going to affect them more major than what they actually know in that meantime, because they're focused on something that's not even relevant, right?
Yeah. Or people are so worried about something that's not even going to possibly happen.
True.
You know,
So
I don't want to walk outside because it's raining and I may get struck by lightning. What are the, what the hell are the chances of that happening? But that's a real stress people will have, and they're living their entire day like, oh my god. And then that's like that one thing, someone can live to be 100 and did nothing, and someone would rather.
What were you
sometimes-
actually living for?
Yeah, and someone would
the joke the
rather
doctor
do
said-
everything.
The doctor says, well, did you drink, did you smoke, did you do drugs? And
Yeah.
well, okay, well, what living have you really done if you haven't done, okay, but you may have done those things.
And that's the thing too, is that we've talked about that so much, is who are we living for? Are we going based off, like Jack said now, opinions of other people? Are we letting other occurrences that happen in our life drastically change? And I mean, we kind of had this conversation when this whole quarantine crap happened, where it's just like, we were kind of in a funk, like, what the you know what I mean? Like, we couldn't go do anything, really.
Right.
Me and you had the Vegas itch, dude. We were freaking out.
Well, the thing about that pretty much lasted for 36 hours, right? Then we're out of it.
Yeah,
And
because
I-
we talked it out and we kind of smacked each other, remember?
Yeah. And I think the thing is about it is, again, when you measure that mental temperature, right, you're making those decisions, like I said, that are going to affect you a long time. And, one of the things that I've been seeing is people go through situations and they're like, you know what? I'm not going to return to work. I got to deal with my personal life. I got to do this. And do you think those clients on the other side, some have a few empathy, but do you think sitting on the other side, they really give a fuck what you're going on? No.
No one does.
No one does.
The sun's going to come up tomorrow regardless.
Yes, regardless of what you think, right? So if you allow yourself to make these dumbass decisions and you lose all these clients or all the work that you put in 10 years to make these decisions, it's nuts. I'm going to use you guys a prime example, right? Mental health. When I was 30 years old, my brother died. And I remember everyone calling me and saying, you know what? Your brother died, this is this. And it's going to sound a little aggressive.
Hold on 1 second. We got a little glitch.
No glitches, guys, no glitches.
I know, we're good. Keep that thought.
Did it get the part where I said,
Oh no, we have all the audio. It just
Okay.
I lost your video there, right there. So
Yeah, probably keep going then. There's just videos off anyway.
no, I'm good. No, we're good. Not all of our audio. It's just I lost camera one, so we're good. Back. I'm sorry
Okay.
to interrupt you again.
So based on what I was telling you guys, I lost my brother when I was 30 years old, and I remember, getting that phone call, and it was early in the morning, and it was crazy because a water pipe busted at my house, and so I'm repairing the water pipe, right? And there was this big ice, it looked like an angel's wing that was on the wall. But the thing was, at the time, I had launched Harmonix Technologies, and I was pretty strong already in the game, right? Think about this. So I'm in 5 years in the game, and I'm getting in these federal procurement bids that have to happen, and you have to submit them all by February 15th is the end date, right? And so that time I submitted $15 million in grants. But if I would have let my family, like, oh, your brother died, and I would have been all freaked out, and I've been over there, and I wouldn't have submitted those $15 million, right? And I got funded for all $15 million. It was crazy. If I would have taken that risk, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. Because that was the largest catapult for me at that time that got me into business, that gave me the capital to build all the assets, buy the assets at the time, everything that needed to happen in that moment. And so I didn't play into the mental weakness, right? And so, you know, I pride myself on that mind of steel. I don't give a shit, right? And so that situation happens, and I remember calling my mom and my dad, and then on the phone, and I said, you know what? And I was just strong, and I said, there is nothing I can do, but I will be writing the check for the funeral expenses. Let the dead bury the dead, and let the living be with the living. Because, you know, if I croak and you got something major going on, get your shit done and then give me a few good words, right? So ultimately, I think what most people do is they sit there in their dwelling. But what I want to tell you out there is the majority of the fucking people telling you that, oh, you know, this, that, and the other, they really don't give a shit. They care for about 15, 20 minutes, but no one's going to care that much except your mama. I'm telling you that right now, right? Because ultimately, you got to live. And so, and that's just kind of an example coming from my perspective, right? Same thing. You have to take control of where you're at. Same thing, like, you know, I'm a hothead. I've always been a hothead. I have to know that if I allow myself mentally to be in a low area and I'm putting up people's shit, and I go and blow up on a client, or I blow up on some moron on the street, or whatever, and I don't cognitively make a good decision, it's going to have a huge adverse effect.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And so those are the kind of things that I'm talking about.
Right.
And I don't know what's going on in today's generation, but I really got to say that from the age, I have to just throw this number out, but like 30, 33 and under is a lot of weak sauce. A lot of weak sauce, and I just can't put it together.
Well, I think, you know, it's an effect of, from a social studies perspective, you look at through the late 80s and outsourcing. Okay, so what happened to our society? We moved from being a manufacturing-based society to now a service-based society. Okay, so one person in that manufacturing-based society could support a family. You know, so now that's changed. So now, because wages, if you look, have pretty much remained stagnant in the last 30 to 40 years. For the majority of us, 95% of us, wages have remained stagnant when the cost of everything else has risen. So now you have two-income homes, if there even is a two-income home. So like my kids don't have a two-income home. They have their dad because I'm divorced.
Right.
So that affects things. So kids not being raised by both parents has effect on things. Now there are always outliers where people do well, like my own sons. They're honor students and multi-sport athletes. You know, so, but that's not the norm.
Right.
Okay. So you look, why is it weak sauce? And I see a lot of kids that just don't have good influences at home, or don't have that perseverance or that grit to deal with, you know, the adversity that they face.
Yeah. And I don't know, I'm so torn with that too, because just kind of based on a lot of things I grew up with, Jack always says I was like a 1% person to turn out how I did.
Oh no, absolutely.
And,
that's why I'm saying it's
yeah,
you might be an aberration, like my kids are aberrations, but if you look at the bell curve where the rest of those kids fit, I agree with Jack. They're weak sauce.
Yeah.
But is it because of who they are, or is it nature or nurture? You know,
honestly, John, I think a lot of it has to do with the person they're developing themselves into.
I agree.
You know, but I mean, it's like one of those things, right? They have to go out and want to do certain things. They want to have to be better. They want to have ambition, have motivation. But then where does that come from?
So, and you've talked about the huge influence that your mom has played, and you know, do you think that she nurtured some of those things in you?
Yeah, I think so. And one thing about my mom is she's probably not gonna like them say this because she watches them, but she was always she had very high standards for me, and that's what I feel really made me continue to strive too, because it's like one of those things where I always try to be like, all right, Mom, I did this, and she's like, okay, well, keep on going. You know what I mean?
What do you think of that analysis of people under 33? The majority of them, I think they are weak, but I think those are contributing factors to it, Jack.
You know, I think it is. So I'm gonna use you, Carson, okay?
Yeah.
and I'm gonna keep this fucking rated R. I think in Carson's situation, right, is that, you know, his mom was basically, what I liked about, I think what his mom was doing was honing him and telling him, I've made a lot of these fucked up decisions. I don't want you to do this, right? And it's a situation versus like in my situation with my brother, he's making the fucked up decisions and not saying, hey, don't do something different. What I'm doing is fucking perfect, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that sometimes when you look at that, that's what it is, but it's more than that. And I think that honestly, and I tell him this, he could have used all the excuses and said, you know what, I've seen abuse, I've seen this, I'm doing that, I'm gonna just fucking fall over and you know, and fucking I'm gonna
That's beating the odds.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
beating the odds.
So he's beat the odds, right? So I guess what I'm saying, John, is that like you look at like the basis of even like pulling weights, right? And I really think that for me in my interviews, I'm just fucking taking on do yard work. Most people just don't have the grit.
Oh no.
And I'm
I agree
sitting
with
there
you.
and I'm thinking, what happened? And it's not about luxury and plush. Because when you meet me and you see the kind of work I'll do, people are just they're just freaked out, right? You know, we're building a wall behind Harmonics now. I call it the Great Wall because it's all filled with concrete. And I went out there and I'm talking to these guys and they're digging a hole, and the line's all fucked up. And I said,
Put a string down, boys.
they had a string. But you know what the crazy part about the string was?
Yeah.
Is they used strings to multiple points,
Oh,
which
yeah.
makes no
Yeah,
fucking
no.
sense to
They
me,
have to
right?
have one tight
One
string.
point, right?
Yep.
And so I went down and this guy's supposed to be the wall guys. And I take them down, but you know what the thing was? Is they saw caught incorrectly and they were gonna have to redo about 2 inches. So we now went out there, laid that line, and I said, look at that fucker, and it was straight, right? But this is what's so crazy. In order to bring that level of perfection, I'm project managing every single job I do. Now, does the average human have that even mental ability? So then check this out. So say you're focused being a teacher and you're hired to do the fucking wall. You don't know what's going on. Once it lay the foundation and it's in there and it's a fucked up job, it's too late. What do? I'm not going to pay for it. Or now you have a screwed up wall. And the majority of people will just settle for where they're at because right now their mental capability is not there, or I got so many shit going on in my life. And the thing about it is this, I'm sorry, life isn't fucking fair. So you're not going to get to pick and choose
Yeah.
and say, you know what, today I really could deal with the wall situation. No, when I got up this morning, I got all kinds of stupid shit going on, right? I had weird stuff, text messages that could piss me off, but I'm sitting there, I'm saying, I know that I got to get A, B, and C done. Mental health, no matter what the pressure is. And I realized that most people, mental ability is not there, and it's sad. Now, I'll give you a perfect example, right? This is more than the obvious. You know, I'm a Christian individual. I was born and raised in the Catholic Church, but I am a person who researches like the mother, right? I go to the next level. And you look at like, you know, Christian persecution, and you look at like how the Crusades were, or how they used people to say you're a witch, and then they fucking burn you to the stake. That's happening today. And how it's happening today is, let me show you how it is they're using the word and they're coming in and saying, based on the Bible, A, B, and C, you're bad. And by doing this, you're a fucked up person. So then all of a sudden you're so scared to live that you're like, well, I don't know what God want me to do this. But I don't know, you weren't here, John, at the time, but I read the Enlightenment letter, right? And if you're a true Christian, there's nothing you possibly can do in life because we're all sinning, because Jesus died for our sins, and therefore, based on that golden ticket, it doesn't matter. If you had that relationship, even fucking Hitler at the end, if he accepted Jesus in his heart, he would have gone to heaven.
And nobody gets to judge you.
Nobody gets to judge you because this is it. And let me tell you something.
But that's the biggest part that I think Christians have a problem with, is that's what they want to do, is judge people.
Yeah.
You know, they want to say, oh, you know what, you're going to get an abortion. Oh, you know what, you watch pornography, or you cuss.
What about
or
what they do, right?
Or if you're Jerry Falwell Jr. this weekend on Instagram, you should take a picture of you and your wife with your pants unzipped on a yacht. You know, and here's this guy that's a multimillionaire.
Yeah.
He's supposedly a Christian, but I wonder if the pool boy was there. You know, but all those parts that you say about Christianity are completely right. But then the part that I have is that they look at it like a cafeteria, and they say, oh, well, I like this part, and I like this part, and I like this part.
Yeah.
But Christianity in the whole is so fucking amazing, because even like I told you in one of the podcasts, Gandhi wanted to become Christian. And the reason that Gandhi didn't become Christian is because the Christians in the church, he went and said, go back to your own, basically your own church, right? Because of race. And what I'm trying to say is that you can use anything to persecute your mind. Like, you're not going to sit with me, I don't care who it is, and sit with me and say, you know what, Jack, you've done this. Look, I've done everything. You go down the 10 Commandments, I pretty much fucked up a lot of shit, right? I'm a soldier, so I mean, that's just inevitable, right? And you think about that, I'm not sitting there in my mind like, oh my God, I'm not going to make it. You know, I'm here, so I'm just going to be scared. No. At the end of the day, I know my relationship. And so, you know, this is the funny joke that I've always told people. You know, I'm a good Catholic boy that walks with Buddhist shoes, right? And so the reason I'm walking with Buddhist shoes is because I'm walking in the Buddhist way day to day and say, you know what, I'm not living life with no judgment. I'm living everything in the moment. I'm living my greatest moment right here. I'm not seeing what my decision is right now, how it's going to affect this, or that I offend you or this. Because if I'm truly living at my highest vibration, then I'm not offending anybody, right? And you're not going to please anybody. But that mental health, and I'm telling you right now, I'm seeing that stuff like actually destroy relationships. Where people think like, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I gotta live this way. And all of a sudden you're sitting there and you're making a decision saying, holy fuck.
Yeah.
This isn't the person that I made a decision to get with or whatever.
Yeah, and even the crazy thing is, like, to kind of put it into perspective, right?
Let me see your phone.
If
go to Facebook.
if I'm making a decision based off of someone's opinion, and let's say that person passes away, you just altered your complete life for this individual that's no longer in the picture, and your life has changed drastically. You know what I mean? And that's kind of one thing where I kind of live by. At the end of the day, if I'm dying, I'm the only guy dying. You know, in that certain moment, and that sun's gonna come up tomorrow, regardless of what's going on in the world. The world doesn't really care, right? So that's why the mental strength is the biggest thing, because that's where I always like to say true champions are built, is in those tough times. And I mean, even like look at the situation with Aiden, right? I took him in with all this stuff going on. He's 16 years old. He's been working at auto therapy for a month, and now he was named the manager over there in that month. And he's one of the youngest dudes on the team. You know what I mean? And that kid can have every excuse in the book too. You know what I mean?
Every excuse.
Every
Even
excuse.
more than you.
Yeah.
Holy
No, seriously.
shit. I mean, more than you.
Seriously.
I mean, you know, his mom
100%.
abandoned him. You know, your brother was like, you know, walking the fence and really...
His diabetes stuff.
Yeah, all the
My
shit.
brother there passed away the beginning of this year, and he's going through that as a 16-year-old kid. You know what I mean? So that dude has seen a lot and has no excuses.
But I think the thing that I like about Aiden, dude, to be honest with you, and this is a lot of thing that I see, and where I really see a lot of that he has a lot of my kind of characteristics, is even at the funeral, right? I remember I told you this, and it was a funny story. I walked up and he said, the Jen's here. And so I think that he's identified and said, look, this was my dad. I didn't agree with his choices. So I'm not going to mourn in this situation like everybody else and go down the fucking rabbit hole. Those are his choices. These are my choices, right? And I think that ultimately, that's what I'm talking about, mental strength.
Exactly.
Because the rest of the world could have got into his head and said, hey, what kind of son are you? You're not all this sad, like this and that. No, you don't get the persecution.
And he did get a lot of that too.
And that's
You know?
why, and you know what I would have told him? I'd have said, you know what, dude? Fuck him. You tell the Jen, fuck him, because you know at the end of the day, you can't take those opinions to the bank.
Exactly.
And so at the end of the day, nobody knows what level of shoes you're walking in, right? And so that's why I live my life with no judgment. I don't fucking know. I could look at someone and say, geez, that's the perfect relationship.
And then behind that door
And
closes.
those doors, they're going at it like fucking Evander Holyfield and Mike Tyson, right?
No, and that's even happened to me at times in relationships where, you know, if a relationship falls through that I've been in, my family's like, oh, we love that person. And it's like, well, yeah, they were great when they were around, but once I closed the door, you know, it was a whole different ball game. So it's just that same stuff. You never really know what's going on, and everyone's so quick to point a finger, you know. And I think that's a big thing that's leading to a lot of why I think the newer generation is so stressed out, depressed, whatever the case may be, because with social media and everything now, and all this cloud, I like to call it, that everyone wants, and if they're not in a certain image, then they feel insecure about themselves, or they're unhappy with their bodies or the way they look because they don't look like a Kylie Jenner, different crap like that. You know, there's so much different things that are going into it, and then now we have all this separation with, oh, well, you know, if you support this side, then, you know, you're a piece of shit. If you support this side, then it's like, okay, well, I'll just keep my mouth shut and not say anything. It's kind of, you know, how certain people are, and then everyone, the other side wants to say everything and anything.
The wise person is never going to say anything. Look, the most powerful guys that I know, and I'm not going to mention their names, But they could be sitting with you, and you could be like, you know what, I'm behind this, and they don't agree with you. They're gonna smile and walk away, because at the end of the day, a wise man's never gonna show his cards. I'm more of the crazy fuck, right? I'm more like Floyd Mayweather. I'm gonna tell you exactly how it is. You're gonna walk out and you say, you know what?
I'm quite guilty of that myself too.
But I'm also ready for the fight. Like, you know, when I run my mouth,
Well prepared.
I'm ready for the fight, right?
Yeah.
That's what I tell people. That's the difference between me, right? And so, but the thing about it, I tone it down on when really specific things. You're not gonna fucking know where I'm coming from. I may be sitting there with you, agreeing or this or whatever, but I'm either gonna plot your death or I'm plotting your graduation. One of the two.
Yeah.
Right? Because what I've learned is that you sit there with somebody going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, you're fucking tired. And then you gotta ask yourself, does that person even have the mental capability to be having this conversation?
Or worth the investment of your time,
No kidding.
See?
you know?
That goes through my thought process so many times when I'm about to enter into a discussion with somebody, and I'm like, you know, like one of my former students says, yeah, coach, you never argue with an idiot. They have way more practice of being an idiot than
Yeah.
you'll never ever, you know. And there's some really great videos on how you're not going to change people's mind. Now, what
No
you
way.
can, yeah, you're not.
No way.
You know, and you know, that just isn't going to happen.
And for me, that stuff just stresses me out too much. You know, like if I see someone and I'm like, I'll see some statuses on Facebook, man, and I get pissed. But I'm like, you know what? Just forget about that. Because, you know, some of the stuff people say on there, I'm like, okay. And then some people will go at it, man. And I'm just like, you know what? It's not even worth time. It's just negative energy. It's just has nothing to do with my life. I'm just going to keep going forward. Tunnel vision, focus.
And I think like Carson, he's more empathic, right? I know a lot of people even in the office, like Brienne's like that. Me, I don't give a fuck. I can read all the trash, dude, wipe it off my shoe. My whole philosophy is this. I walk with rain boots. You know, with rain boots, nothing really sticks to it's not a stain, right? And I think that this crap that's out there today is staining people's minds. And it's like a stain that's in there, right? You ever had that shirt you want? I had this badass shirt. Fucking A. It says, I flexed and the sleeves fell off. Never worn it, right? I wore it once and I used Clorox cleanup and I fucking got it on my shirt and now I got this Clorox thing. I'm pissed, but I can do about it, right? That's exactly what's happening with a lot of social media. You watch people and they can't even stay focused on their job without getting on social media. They gotta push some bullshit story, share some people something, some all that, but don't get their shit done. And then they're sitting there saying, well, you know what? I couldn't get this done, or I haven't done this done, or and that. And you sit there and say, focused. It goes back to that mental ability. Where's your fucking focus, right? And it's always those people that have all these excuses and why they couldn't do this and whatever. And you sit there and you ask yourself, you know what? You're just full of shit. There's nothing for me to talk about, right? There's nothing to talk about because you're going to be where you're at. But the thing about it is I will give people some opportunity. And then once I think it's just I'm just pouring water into concrete, then I just pull back.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because it's just a waste of a pour of water, you know? I had something I was going to say and I totally lost it.
They'll come back to you. But I think on this topic, right, and you got these kids that are, you know, I don't know what's going on in their lives, but you hear about these suicides, and I'm going to tell you right now, you know, I'd have been in COVID as a kid, and you had me fucking locked up, and I got my Nintendo at the time, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, and I got the water, and I got my bike. I'm not fucking killing myself because I can't see my friend, right? And again, it's that mental awareness. What is really going on? It's so crazy. I got to tell you a funny story. Animals, right? I saw this thing on Facebook, one of my old friends, and this little poodle got bitten by the big dog, and the big dog broke the back of the hip bones, and so the little poodle doesn't have any movement of her back legs whatsoever. So she drags herself from the stomach, and this fucking poodle's faster than shit, and they're throwing the ball and they go in the office and it's faster than crap. And I think resiliency, mental resiliency. That poodle does not recognize or know that it doesn't have its back legs working. And you think about that and it's like, holy shit. You can sit there and give up or you can sit there and push.
Yeah.
Where's your mental resiliency? And so you got to be able to measure something, right? That's why you go to the doctor and get a blood test, right, to see where you're at. And that's what the question today is, everyone who's listening, where is your mental health right now? What do you feel like? And is the shit that's causing you the issues, is it real or is it made by you? Because our mind is so fucking convoluted, right? We can think we have all these enemies. We can feel like there's people out to get us. like Carson says, we could get scared and say, I'm not going to get on the road. Because if you look at statistics, you have more of a chance of getting into a fatal
car
accident than fucking COVID.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
It's the most dangerous thing you can do is get in a car. And we do it like nothing. It's my favorite thing to do.
Well, you look around and everyone's on their phone and they're driving. They're like this.
Yeah.
You know, putting makeup on.
It killed my only sibling, killed my sister, a car did. So I know exactly. I know, and trust me, my parents had this discussion with me because I find myself not wearing my seatbelt, and that's what killed my sister. And my parents pleaded with me. They're like, "Can you, don't you see what it did to your sister?" So since they've sat me down, and I'm 49 years old, and they sat me down about a month ago, and they're like, because I just get in the habit of clicking it behind me and leaving it there, and I'm like, just a pain in the ass, but do we learn from those things? And I try. And I try to grow that way, but I mean, you're absolutely right. There are so many other things that are more dangerous, but unfortunately, what can we control? You know what I'm saying?
But think about this, John, with this question. Like, you're super intellectual, right? And so I would say that as the mental thing, you worked on your mind. But the one thing you are is mental rebellious.
No, no doubt.
So let's think about this, right?
I'm both.
No, you're
I try to be an intellectual, but then I also try to be an intellectual pain in the ass.
But the thing about it, this is exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So we're sitting down the street, right, and you fucking get hit by a car, and we're all fucking sad, and we're saying John went down, and he wasn't wearing a seatbelt. We can't sit there and say, well, John was a dumb fuck. The guy's smarter than shit. He's a teacher. He's got this. We carry these conversations. So I would say, well, what the fuck was John thinking? But knowing your personality, you're mental rebellious. Mm-hmm. So, because think about this, you chronically took you said, I'm going to click it behind me. Well, what's the difference of clicking it in front of you? Because in your mind, you're like, no, I'm not, I want to rebel against this. And what I'm talking about is a lot of people are mental rebellion against things that could actually cost them something major, right? So you have the annoying car that, makes the noise, that's why you were clicking it, right? And I used to think about that. I remember I had an uncle that had a set of seatbelt that he had actually cut from a truck, and then he put it inside that plug. And then I wore the fucking seatbelt, right? Yeah. And I was sitting there and I thought, well, when I started seeing the statistics of why people died in automobiles, and it wasn't the seatbelt, I said, fuck, I wore my seatbelt. Because I was notorious for that. And so if I would have got hit 10 years ago, they would have said, well, the fucker's smart as shit, so he wasn't that smart. And that's what I'm talking about, is we have to choose what really makes sense and what should bring mental rebellion. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's another thing too. I mean, if you really hate putting your seatbelt on, you know the risk, right? You still want to do it and do it. You know what I mean? As long as people, and that's the thing too. I think people don't understand sometimes what the cost of a certain choice they make can happen. Because it's not going to happen to them. It won't. No, it's never going to happen to me.
And I wish, because I heard this, and I heard it somewhere, and I've been using it as a saying because I had a really great discussion with one of my really close friends the other day, and she's living with a person, and they're talking about some of the conflicts that they have, and they have a blended family with kids, and I said I can't remember where I heard this quote, and I said there's no right or wrong. Mm-hmm. There's choices and consequences.
Exactly.
Because you can believe in whatever you want to believe. You can believe that the sky, that you look up and you say, okay, the sky's red. Okay, well, I'm not saying you're right or wrong, because something might be wrong with your brain or your eyes or something, and that's what you see. Mm-hmm. So it's not right or wrong. It's just choices and consequences. Yeah. And even in our whole political discord, okay, so you believe whatever I can't say that you're right or wrong, but there's choices and consequences. Yeah. So if you want to fly a Nazi flag, well, there's consequences. You're probably not going to be very socially accepted. Exactly. Doesn't mean you're right or you're wrong. You may feel that way, and you may have that hatred in your heart, or you may believe whatever you believe. There's no right or wrong. It's just choices and consequences.
Yeah. Well, I always say too, same thing. For every action you take, there's an equal or opposite reaction. And it's just which path are you going to take? And same thing, like in the situation you brought up with your brother, you made that choice, and there was a action that happened where maybe you missed out on a certain thing, but then this other thing was there for you. You know what I mean? And you had the opopportunity to pick and choose what you wanted to take advantage of.
I definitely didn't miss out on anything on his life, dude. I jumped that 10 minutes.
No, but you get what I'm saying, though?
Like, there was certain situations, he was saying maybe you missed out on some of the mourning and stuff like that, but you had to make that tough decision of balancing. Okay, I could literally go into mourning, and I could put everything on my life beside me right now, but then I jeopardize my own well-being by doing that. But then there's other parts that I can have. So then I go out and I can get these businesses by February 15th, but then I can afford to pay for the funeral. But if I gave up this, then I wouldn't be able to do this.
You know what, John's crazy as shit. You know, I never told you this story. Maybe I did share it. About 5 years ago, I hired one of the top clinical psychologists in the United States. Big time guy, right? And I wanted to hire him to see if I was fucked up. You know, the crazy part is I was talking with somebody this morning. I was trained by one of the greatest militaries in the world. So I just don't have that thought process. It's weird as shit. I just don't. Like, I go into something and people say, "What do you love?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll have those moments and I like love you and this." But my love's conditional. And it's really simple, right? And I was talking about like when I went to college in sociology. And at the end of the day, you have to continue. If you have a plant, if you have your favorite tree in the world, and you got this tree and it grew, and you cut all the water source to it, it's gonna die. Older trees take longer to die, but they're still gonna die. So what gives people the ability to think that they don't need to nourish their relationships or their friendships or that? I want you to be in my life and the stuff when I'm alive, not when I'm fucking dead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, you know what I'm trying to say?
Right.
And so for me, I always tell people, my love is conditional. I'm not Jesus. So you continue depositing into the relationship, I'm always going to pay you dividends back more than you give me. But if you stop putting into it, then if the tree dies, the tree dies because you only have so much savings in it. So if you have your savings and you spend $10.50 a month, right, and you have $100 and you stop putting into the thing, at one point the $10.50 is going to diminish to $100. And that's every relationship in life. And so I think that most people think, well, you know what, I did that one good thing for that one person on there. No, it's not that. And so ultimately I said, you know, that's where I'm at, out of sight, out of mind. And so before I used to have this whole other thing of loyalty. And they say, well, family's not like that. That's fucking full of shit too, right? And what I've come to realize is this. Maybe I was trained too nuts and I'm like a razor's edge. But what I've realized is that the way I think is what's got me where I'm at today. So I never feel let down because I already walk into a situation saying, well, you know, we already have these flaws. We're human. We have this. So ultimately, what can you bring to the table?
Yeah.
Period. Right? If you can't bring it to the table, I'm not going to be mad. But don't come to the table like I'm going to bring A, B, and C. I'm going to tell you another funny story. So, you know, a lot of my friends come to me and I train them out. And they want to show me their guns and, you know, they'll go train. And, you know, I earned the Iron Cross when I was in the military. I was a tactical arms guy. And one of the things is, it's crazy, one of the individuals sitting back here, he showed me his gun and he pointed it up and I fucking jumped on his ass. Like I'm pretty aggressive, right? And I was showing John too from the Twins and he laughed and I fucking screamed at him and I freaked out. And he was like, whoa. And I said, the reason I don't want you to think I'm a dick. Wherever you point that barrel, we were taught destruction comes on the other side. Regardless if you think there's a bullet or not. So if you always trained your mind to say, that barrel, wherever I point it, destruction's gonna come upon it. Then you're not gonna be fucking loosely all over the place. And so I'm like, you point the fucking gun down to the floor at all times. And you see where people will make a mistake. You see these guys like, oh, they were really good at their arms and they shoot themselves, right? The moment you lose respect for a weapon or a car is the day that it'll take your life. And I'm talking a supercar or a race car or a high level whatever, right?
Oh, yeah.
Is the day it'll take your life. If you don't continue to repetitively do the things of safety first, I promise you, you're gonna fuck up. And I don't do it. When you have a supercar, the first thing you should do is check all the air, walk around and check the air of the tires. Second, you should check to see if your tires have any type of crack.
You don't want to blow out. Yeah.
You don't want to blow out, right? Third, you should physically look at your brakes and see, are these brake pads up to par? Because what if you are traveling fucking 180 miles an hour and there wasn't a brake pad and there happened to be a piece of steel and that fucker welds onto the drum, not the drum, but the caliper, and all of a sudden now you're flipping. How many times does that happen? It happens more than you think. So same thing, right, with the gun. You clear the weapon, you put it in safety, you do a dry fire, and you do this. I'm gonna tell you a fucking funny story. I have Benelli shotguns, right? Semi-automatic shotguns. I cleared this thing 3 times. I go outside, and I clear outside. I fire the trigger, boom, right in my backyard. But I'm pointing down the floor, and I had a buckshot in there. Like, you know what I'm trying to say?
Oh, yeah.
It could have gone through the neighbor's wall, someone across the wall, done over. But I always say, barrel to the ground. I'm going to check this thing multiple times, and then I'm going to do a dry fire. So you have to apply that to life, right?
Yeah.
And so if you're feeling a little whatever, you can't get to all those separate levels of your building, like Carson's talking about. Get up in the morning, someone flips me off. And I'm like, that's son of a bitch. And I get to the light, and the guy's driving like a grandpa. All of a sudden, I'm going to level 2,
Yep.
right? And then I go to the gas station, and the lady's a bitch. She doesn't want to give me coffee or something, right? Or it's not there.
Yeah.
Now you're at level 4, right? So in your mind, how many floors do you have in your mental capacity? And that's how you should be able to know what you can take. Well, I got a lot of fucking floors. Mine's the Empire State Building, right?
Oh yeah, no doubt.
But most
But
people,
not
it's a
everybody's
2-story.
like that, yeah.
Most people have a single story.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too, you know, it's like sometimes people will freak out, right, when someone, because I'm the same way like you are. If people are struggling, I like to hear what's going on and say, okay, here's what you need to do. You know what I mean? I get like a high off helping people like that. And sometimes, you know, I'll share my story with them and they just like feel like shit. And they're like, wow, what I was really thinking was a life-ending thing is really nothing, and you went through all this and you're just acting like everything's good. You know what I mean? But that's something that I think people, the little stuff that they're going through, they haven't seen what people really experience and certain people experience in life. Loss, poverty, maybe addictions, whatever the case may be. Everyone's going through stuff. Maybe someone just found out they got cancer. You know what I mean? And we could be sweating some guy tailgating us behind and make it the end of the world. You know what I mean? And that's where knowing the mental capacity and where you are is a huge thing, because just because things suck for me doesn't mean I'm the only person, or I'm almost even being selfish by saying certain things when there are people who have a few weeks to live and they're, you know, on chemo right now. You know, it's just crazy.
I used to always tell myself, you know what, when I'm having a shitty day, there's a million people that have it a million times worse than me today.
Oh yeah.
No matter what your shitty day is, right? And you really think about that, it's like, holy fuck. When I wake up and I talk to my mom, she's having a shitty day, but she can't get out of her chair some days, right? That's a fucked up day.
Yeah.
And so when you're sitting there and you're complaining about the small things in life, it's just nuts. But you think about this, right? I'm going to tell you guys another funny story. So I knew this individual who's freaked out in life, and he goes out and he buys ammunition, he buys guns, he spends his savings, right? But now he can't buy food.
Yeah.
And he's asking me what I think about this, and I said, ultimately, there's got to be a fucking balance. So what good is it for you to be able to protect yourself, but you can't feed yourself?
Hey.
That's
Fighting
just
to
totally
live,
backwards.
living to die.
Yeah. You know what I'm trying to tell you? And that's where the mental capacity comes in. Or you talk to people and they're so freaked out or think that the world's so corrupted out there. Oh my God, I'm in a neighborhood and I see 3 guys driving Mercedes. They must be drug dealers. So, oh my God, the world's going to change. We're not ready. I got to just prepare myself. Prepare for what? And then you know what's funny? Most of these dudes you fucking talk to, they're Charmin.
Yeah.
Because if the wolf really knocked on their door, they'll just crumble.
Oh yeah.
So I'm just like, what are you preparing for? You're going to crumble anyways.
my favorite example of that, and I got to find the video of it, is do you remember when there was that shooter in Dallas, that sniper in Dallas, and then the cops sent in a robot and blew him up? Well, anyway, when there was like a protest going on, and in Texas, those guys get a boner out of open carry. They're walking around in their tactical gear and with their gun, and once that sniper started shooting, all those guys carrying that gun didn't take a position and spread out and return fire. Fuck no, they were running because they just like to play soldier and they're Charmin, but they don't frickin' know what it is to frickin' plop your ass down and put a bullet back in that other person. Yeah. Oh no, they were all booking it running there with their open carry frickin'.
When I was in the military, one of the greatest things we used to say was this: we train for war, pray for peace, and 2 people have died for you. Jesus for your Savior, and soldiers for your freedom. Think about that, right? and they're not playing the Charmin story. I watched this story last night called Abducted, right? And it's kind of a cheesy movie, but it's about these soldiers, and the guy comes in and they got hit by an IUD and he lost his hearing, and he was the godfather to this kid, and they end up abducting her, and the guy goes rogue and he's fucking these guys up, right? And when you really look at that and you think about that, and he's sitting there with the investigator, and he's like, well, I'm gonna take care of this. And there's a scene where he comes in and there's this house and they've abducted this kid, and there's these degenerates, but they're firing back, and he just takes them out. But again, right, are you going to prepare for something that you're going to be able to actually execute? So if you're just going to play soldier and the wolf comes to you, how many times have you heard of stories where the guy has the gun and the guy kills him with a knife? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Right? Because when the wolf really calls upon the door, are you going to be able to do it?
I know, because, and that, what does the military train you for constantly? They're constantly conditioning your mind so that you can handle those stressful situations, to be able to overcome fear, to overcome those emotions that overtake your body. It's just like anything. What does a wrestler train for? What does a fighter train for? What does a football player or an athlete? They train, they put themselves so that they can deal with adverse situations. You know, you're tired, you finish doing sprints, now go fucking make a free throw.
Yep, exactly.
You know, now perform under pressure and be ready for that versus, oh, I can go out and make a free throw right now, but okay, do it after suicide.
Yeah, exactly.
Or do it after you're fucking exhausted, right?
Yeah,
Or
I love that.
You know what I'm saying? So how do you mentally prepare so that when the time does call upon you and there is stress, you know, can you actually perform?
You know, so funny is I have a guy working in my office. He's in the reserve, and he's this. And I said, you know what, dude, you're soft as fucking Charmin. And he was laughing, and I said, you know, just their whole mental strength and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, what fucking are we coming out? No wonder we're fucked. No wonder everyone's afraid of Russia. You know what I'm trying to say? Because if they had the technology, we would be screwed. We would be so screwed.
Well,
because
they just don't have the economy. Their
Yeah.
economy is completely dependent upon foreign oil, so they don't have a diversified economy, and they could, but they're run by gangsters and thieves. So they don't care about social infrastructure. They don't care about tech development. They don't have a Silicon Valley. They don't have all these other things that make a country great. So they just depend upon oil. That's how we crushed them in the late 70s, by getting in bed with the Saudis and frickin' changing the price of oil. And that's, you saw where that got us. But that's how you crush a nation that only has one
yeah,
crop.
Yeah. It's using your mind.
Oh yeah,
Right?
no
It's using your
doubt.
mind. It's a CIA level kind of warfare.
Oh no, and they're the ones that.
And that's what's happening to us today. Fucking COVID is literally CIA level type of stuff going on. Not the CIA, but I'm saying the mental thing. We're creating a monster that's not there. So all of a sudden we're just so freaked out, and people can't even survive. And you know, I'm waiting for this check, and I'm doing this, and I'm thinking, are you fucking kidding me? Now, am I saying out there, like my famous line, am I saying go out there and lick doorknobs? No. But you know, I see some of my friends out there running with a mask, and I'm like, do you understand the level of damage that you're doing to your body after 15 minutes? This is not a fucking opinion of mine. Those are the facts. Just look at what Harvard has studied on that. And this is all that shit that you're doing to yourself. So I'm like, well, get up early and start walking by yourself. But because I doubt that COVID is going to get you from 50 miles, 150 feet away.
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to tell you?
Oh, the
I know.
shitty thing is those masks aren't even meant to be worn more than a few hours.
Well, the
Because
mask-
they hold all the freaking crap you're breathing in on them. You're
And
supposed to get new ones at least every day, and
Yeah.
everyone's using the same damn mask.
And the thing about the mask portion about it, I understand the piece about is it's not really to protect you. It's like if
Yeah.
you got the shit and you give it to
Yeah,
somebody.
yeah.
And I tell them I'm okay with that. But what I'm talking about is this: just the common sense. Am I gonna drive with my fucking mask on in my car?
No.
And then smoke a cigarette and pull them.
Yeah, but do you understand? Do you know what I'm trying to tell you? You don't even understand the mission.
Yeah.
So when I walk in here and I put the mask on, I hope if I sneeze, I'm not going to go fuck up a little old lady, and I know that because of me.
Yeah.
I was a carrot. No, okay, I understand that. But I'm talking about when I'm running on the Bosque in Corrales, I'm not fucking wearing a mask.
Yeah.
Correct.
I'm just telling you it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm going to pull all kinds of tricks, whatever I got to do. But if there's people around me, I'm going to be respectful for that. But I'm saying you have to condition your mind. Someone's not going to tell me, you know what, Jack, you need to wear pink panties because this is, and I'm going to do it. That doesn't make any sense. I'd be like, okay, what's the why? You have to ask in life, what is the why? Why am I getting up in the morning? Why am I with this person? Why am I in the job that I am? Right? Why do I look the way I do? The fucking why is simple. You got to make that decision, right?
I agree with that. I agree with that. Like, I think from a government perspective, the government said, I don't think they wanted to just create simple policies versus a list of exemptions. Do you see what I'm saying? Because I'm fine, but see, like somebody like Phil, we care about Phil because he gives us this opportunity and he's a really good person, you know, but this has affected him. Now, but I also agree that if sitting inside for 30 minutes, and even if you're at 50% capacity, it's led to restaurant workers getting COVID at a higher rate than anything else, any other types of business. Well, that's science that shows those things. So I think that there needs to be a definition of rules from indoor facilities versus people being outside. And I completely agree with you. If you're exercising and you're out in the open and you're not really staying within 6 feet of a person, then you shouldn't. You should make those better decisions. But I disagree with the Karens that come into these businesses and say, I have a right to do anything I fucking want. Well, no, you don't, because this business can set up any rules that they want to.
Absolutely.
They could say, everybody has to come in here with a red shirt.
Yeah, or they could refuse service.
Yeah, exactly. But people, again, think that they're entitled to think any way they want. So there's that kind of a fine line that you have to kind of make those decisions for yourself. But again, you have the choices and the consequences. And if you're these crazy Karens, then you get outed and you lose your jobs and you lose your your livelihood because you end up looking like an asshole. Versus, say, a person out on the Bosque exercising, then you shouldn't wear a mask. You know, theoretically, could you be cited? Yeah, but I don't think anybody's going to do that. But now, if you're like those kids, like the J.B. White kid that just got killed up in Santa Fe, you know, you're at a house party or whatever, and you're not social distancing, you're putting yourselves in dangerous situations, then those are sort of those things that cross to the wrong side of the line.
Which was the J.B. White? I don't think I heard the story.
It was a kid that got shot.
So he just finished his junior year. He took classes all this summer. He's a basketball player from Santa Fe. He's 6'8". He was, rest his soul. So he was 6'8". After his junior year, the Lobos offered him a scholarship. So instead of playing his senior year, he graduated early and was going to start UNM now in August. So he went to a house party there up at Tesuque, just outside of Santa Fe. And at 3:30 in the morning, he got in a fight with a 16-year-old, and the kid pulled out a gun, shot him.
Dead.
Yeah, kid had maybe NBA potential, you know, and so that was a tough discussion I had with my son, you know, because you have these kids out there, and again, and there's bigger issues, and I've written some social media posts on this, you know, that I don't want to. If we can talk about more, but you know, you have somebody that has all this upside, and then you have kids that don't. That just want to look to
take
start
away from that.
So let's talk about this, right? I'm glad you brought this
Yeah.
up. I did hear about this. I just didn't remember the name. So you think about that, right? You look at 50 Cent. He had this thing on one of his books, and he talked about why he left the hood, and he said, and I went to the white neighborhood, and I hired all these guys from Connecticut, and that's when he got to that $100 million or whatever he sold for. I can't remember what it was for the vitamin water, right?
Vitamin water, yep. Sold for like 50 million or something.
Yeah, 50 million. So you think about that, right? And he was up there, and he's in Mike Tyson's old crib, and all this stuff. Ultimately, this is what's crazy, is when you get to a certain level of success and you're climbing up, the jealousy factor that was there, that 16-year-old kid, you know, I'm not in his mind, but he killed him because he had the potential of doing something that he wasn't there. And this is what you got to tell your kids, and this is what I tell people. Once you're at a certain level, you can't be fucking mixing with everybody. I don't give a shit what anyone tells me.
Nope.
You have to be with like-minded minds, right?
You have to make the change.
Because you can't be in the hood anymore. You can't be over there because, you know what? You are literally then playing with danger.
Choices and consequences.
Choices and consequences.
Exactly.
Now, like, you look at that baseball player, that the same thing happened over here, and the real story that came out, and he was picking on that guy at the other place for an Imbibe. Then the dude smoked him. He called the cousin came and smoked him. And that's, again, you know what? Nothing's right or wrong, but you can't push those limits, right? It's not worth pushing the limits. You just kind of sit there and just keep yourself calm.
Yeah. Oh, I know. And trust, because that's one thing now that I see, because like my son's becoming more and more high profile. You can't, anybody in the football circles, they know his name.
Yeah.
You go outside the state and they start to know he's starting to get a national, and it just scares me because, even when we do like 7-on-7s or stuff like that, and I'm like, oh, every single one of these kids would hesitate to take a shot at him.
Wants to take his knees out or something
exactly,
like that,
and I worry about those things, and I'm like, oh.
John, did you go to school? Where did you go to high school at?
Cibola.
So do you know my cousin Ricky Roberts?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. I think the name sounds familiar. I'm trying to think if I picture him. Yeah, because I was 89. He was probably 88.
Yeah. So I'm gonna tell you. Let me tell you.
Oh
a
no,
story.
he played for the Lobos.
Yes.
Oh no, yeah.
So I'm
no,
gonna tell you a
actually
sad
was my
story about
ex-wife.
him.
Yeah, no, I know exactly who he is. He was a punter.
So the sad story about my cousin, right? He was actually gonna be a wide receiver
Yeah.
and faster than shit.
Oh yeah. Played for Siebel.
And
David House, yeah.
And you know what happened? One of his best friends on a 7-on-7 swiped him and took him in the knee. And then the story gets the thing. Then he got stuck on the steroids to try to heal himself. Went to that. Then he went to drugs. And then it all ended in a fucking story. I had a phone call with him. We're supposed to meet in Vegas. He doesn't show up. I call his wife and says, "Oh, I didn't tell you. He died of a heart attack on his couch." So when you look at something like that, again, if you're that high level, you need to be playing with the high level. So you watch this, right? You look at like how close LeBron James, D Wade, the guy from the Golden State Warriors, what's his name?
Curry.
Steph Curry.
Yeah.
And there's another guy that hangs, CP3.
Yeah.
Those two hang out and they play right all the time. What do all four of them have in common? Superstars. So if I'm a superstar, you're a superstar as well. Do I want to fuck you up? No.
No.
But do you understand what I'm saying? But would those guys just play with the regular guys from the NBA?
Well, and that's the crazy thing too. Like that's a big problem is so much people, and a lot of people say it's like a New Mexico thing, but it's bigger than that. Is that if you come from the same area and you're dealt the same deck of cards, people naturally hate if they had that same deck of cards and didn't make something out of that hand, but someone else did. And that's the same reason why we talked about it before when Nipsey Hussle died too. He had just came up in his rap career. He had a clothing store in the neighborhood he grew up in Crenshaw, and right outside of his store, someone went up to him and killed him. Same thing, where you can't, when you come up from a hometown or a bad area, whatever the case may be, you can't stay hanging around there because people freaking hate you.
Yep.
Because they weren't the ones, because you actually accomplished something and came from the same neighborhood as that person, so they naturally have so much hate against you because they couldn't do what you did.
That goes back to this thing I told you. You can't be a prophecy in your own land.
At all.
It's all right. Can't
It's
be a prophecy in
crazy.
your own land. Right? And so you think about that, and that's what I'm talking about. Is so like back to what we're talking about mental health. Where are you at? Where are you at as a human? And where are the people that are around you? Where are they at? And are you guys even matching at the same frequency?
Well,
Or-
even now, I noticed too, like once I started doing real estate, I had so much friends know what I do, and they wouldn't use me for anything. And it's like, well, if I support you, you're supposed to support me, but deep down, they would see the success and they're like, oh, he's doing fine. He doesn't need our business. You know what I mean? What? Like, that makes zero sense to me, but those were my friends, right? It's just a trip.
And when you think about that's a great example, right? And you think about that right there, and you're thinking, what the fuck? Right? Your friends there, you don't use you. You're doing something else, and that's the whole thing. But I don't get myself. I tell people this: why don't your friends use you? I actually have pretty good friends. I've done a lot of stuff. They say, where are the friends that can use you? And I fuck with them and say, because they can't afford me. Not everybody can buy Lambo. So you know what? That's okay, and they get all pissed off. And do I even want to help you? You know what I mean? It's the second thing.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I kind of started to think about too when all of that would first happen. But it was just a big eye opener, you know. You're like, oh yeah, these people, they say they're there for you, but then when you're like, hey, you know, they're like, oh yeah, we actually bought a house yesterday. What?
Should have bought one from me. Yeah.
And the crazy part about it is that's one thing, John, that I can tell you that I've never had in my heart, ever. Like if you're in the crew, I'm using you. Just bottom line, I've never been like, oh, he's gonna make it, he's not gonna make it. And that's why I think I've had so much success. Is I'm in there. If anyone fucking has a house, I'm just gonna throw to the fucking Winston. He's coming up in the game. And then I'm gonna fucking rack up my favors and say, okay, fuck, we got this what it cost you. So guess what? You're paying the suites in Vegas now. You know, shit like that. You know, because I'm a tax attorney, dude. Everything with me goes down like that. I'm taking, he knows, right? But at the end of the day, why wouldn't you send it that way? Right? Why wouldn't you send it that way? But again, is take the temperature of the people around you where their mental capacity at, right? Because if you're sitting there and they're gonna fuck you on something small, they're gonna fuck you on something big.
Yep. I completely agree.
And most people are like, oh no, that won't happen to me. I'm like, if the pit bull shows you its teeth, it's gonna bite you. Right?
Yeah.
You don't say, you know what, I'm gonna play with it in the living room. Or now you can't get out.
You're
He
gonna
has-
try and keep petting him.
Yeah. You see what I'm trying to tell you?
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, it's just the thing. It's just, I don't know. For me, I think it's because I've been blessed to have the opportunity to be so close to you. People are jealous of that. I've been blessed to get into the company that I started in and grew so fast in the organization. And people just, I think more in my age, they didn't like to see the success happen so quickly, because it's the same thing that happened to, you know, the kid that passed away in Santa Fe, same thing that happened to Nipsey Hussle, same thing that happened to, you know, your cousin. It's the same stuff. People just don't like to see someone in their same realm rise above them.
You know, that's where I think I was so lucky that I rose out of my community so fast. You know what I'm trying to
Oh
say?
yeah, to get away from that type of
It
riff.
was just wasn't just because I the type of business that I was doing. It was just so fast that when I came back, it was like, oh shit, it's because I'm badass. Like it was too late.
Yeah,
right?
it was already.
Yeah, it was too late for anybody.
They could. It was like a rocket booster. They couldn't knock your rockets off before you got to the top.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. I mean, and the, tragically, the sad part is that that was one of his motivating factors for graduating from high school early, is that he saw racism up in Santa Fe, and he saw that the way people treated him, that, you know, just because he's 6'8" in a land of 5'8" kids, you know.
Yeah, everyone's
you know,
jealous of that.
and he said, you know what, I'm getting out of this. I'm going to try it. He went and graduated early. Sebastian, who does our show after this, I called him the day after he died, and he was in tears. You know, he was in tears because he had gotten to know him well. He went to the graduation the weekend before, knows the grandma, talks to her all the time.
That's crazy.
And he had told me about why he was graduating early. You know, and you saw it on social media. Oh, he thinks he's too good. He's, you know, for Santa Fe or whatever. And I'm like, dude, can you just prop people up? Can you not project your own inadequacies?
Yeah.
And
that's the
and try
sad
to
thing. There's always trolls out there. You know, everyone's always trying to find something to say, but it's free to do it. That's
Yeah.
why they love it, because it doesn't cost them anything. If we charge people to be trolls,
Yeah.
I wonder how much trolls would actually be paying
no,
to
they
do
wouldn't do shit.
it. They wouldn't do shit.
50's making a lot of money being a troll.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But not
you
to
know,
that extent. He makes fun of people,
Yeah.
but he's not, you know, just putting people down. You know what I mean? And the people that he does troll probably deserved it, honestly.
he goes hard. He gets out of control. And I'm like, holy shit, dude. You're getting out of control. You're way past my level. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he does. That's why Snoop Dogg stole his Lambo. Remember that one?
Yeah.
He saw 50 owes me money. Take your car.
You know what's so crazy is like I saw this whole thing. I don't know if you saw Snoop, but he actually freaking put down Eminem.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he said that, you know, Eminem,
didn't see that.
he shouldn't be in the top 10 greatest. And the reason he rose because of Dr. Dre, and that was like pretty controversial, right? And the people fucking went against him, like, oh my God. And I'm like, you can't really fuck with a guy like Eminem, because not only does he have the hip hop community, but he has the country guys. You know what I'm trying to say? The numbers are too high. But it was crazy in that decision right there, and how detrimental it could be.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing, too. You never,
But then I'm sitting there thinking, well, Snoop, you fucking wouldn't have been shit without Dre either. So what are you talking about? You know what I'm trying to say? It's not like you came up on your own.
exactly.
So those are those things that I look at when you say something. Well, where the fuck were you from? Are you from the same camp?
You can't throw rocks if you live in a
can't-
glass house.
Yeah, you know what I'm trying to tell you?
Can't do it.
I mean, no one can talk shit.
So
I mean,
you just shut your mouth.
If you're Snoop or Eminem or 50 Cent, you all came out of Dre's camp. So at the end of the day, you can't say shit.
And that's the one thing that I think I feel I learned at an early age too. And one thing with me is I haven't been much, Jack, you probably assess, I really don't talk too much. I just deliver, you know, because for me, it's all about just the action. whatever people say really doesn't matter to me. It's about what you're doing.
I think the greatest weapon you can have is to be silent.
Yeah. Wise man once said nothing at all.
Yeah, I think being quiet is the best weapon you could have. You know, you'll know me. I'll talk a little shit here, but it's way after the fact. But you don't know what I'm doing. But you'll see the impact.
Mm-hmm.
It's always a fucking huge impact, right? You know, I had a $500,000 month this month personally. Wow. Right, I haven't time in the company. But at the end of the day, you don't know. You're just like, holy shit, there it is.
Mm-hmm.
But when you sit there and you're saying, well, has he fallen off or was he doing this? I'm like, no, I'm just bored. You know, I mean, what's going to be the next move? But when you look at certain things, no, I'm sitting back in the lab. I'm producing that music. I want to make these moves.
Mm-hmm.
But the beautiful piece is for me is when I'm sitting there and I'm even talking to customers and I know they're full of shit. I'm like, you know what? I'm not the right guy for you, and I don't care, right?
Yeah.
Because I know what I deliver, but I'm not gonna be talking and try to sell you something. My sales guy, right, badass, his name Jason. I'll put him on blast. He's like, "Oh, Hefe, we gotta close this guy. We gotta have this meeting." I'm like, "Fuck no, I'm not going to their office." And he's like, "What? No, I'm not going to their office. Then come see me." Because ultimately, they need the solution, and I really don't need the sale. I'll provide you the solution, and that's what I do. But I really don't need the sale. I love to deliver a solution, but I'm not. Van Gogh's not going to be over there like, you know what? I'm going to go meet with Carson and say, "Hey, Carson, you want this painting?" Van Gogh's going
They
to be
should
like,
already recognize
yeah,
the product.
Yeah, it is what it is.
But
And
that's a good culture that you've established for yourself now.
Yeah, so for me,
You know?
I'm not going to talk about it. But when I got high-level guys that reported to the president, I mean, I got a guy who reported to Obama, FEMA director, that calls me and says, "I need this job done. We get this," and there's no fucking questions. Now, how many times have I gone to see him? Twice, 2 or 3 times. But you're sitting across the level and you want me to do all this hoops and jungles and, you know, I don't want to be here with these change orders. And I'm like, well, what do you got hiding? And then they come out and say, well, I didn't really give you the number of machines. That's what you're fucking worried about.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, Microsoft, call Bill Gates. Bill Gates is going to tell you, sorry, dude, you need a 365 license. I don't make the fucking rules.
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to tell you? And so I think that once you're able to establish things, it's there. You know what's funny is we've been playing a lot of volleyball. And I'm able to see across as an athlete, when people are able to get into people's heads, like guys that are actually good will just give up. And I'm watching and I'm thinking, holy shit, that mental stability is so much because you barely got told a couple of words that weren't even piercing and you rather fucking give up in your mind. You can tell me all kinds of shit. I don't give a damn. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to go out there 110%. And I don't care. Like, I'll give you funny. The guys laugh at me, right? So I go out there and we're there and someone comes out and says, "I don't need to stretch." And I'm like, "'Cause you're a fucking dumbass." Right? And so we're going through and I'm always doing yoga and I'm doing all this stuff. And I wear 2 knee braces and I wear my D-weight elbow thing and all that. And I said, and so it's funny. It says, "Why do you do that?" So we're caught on video. I have to get this fucking vicinity. And you see this guy, right? And literally my waist is above his head. And so they're like, "What the fuck?" And I said, when you're getting off 3 inches off the fucking ground, you don't need a knee brace. You don't need to stretch. Right? But that's me talking shit because the proof's in the pudding. But that's what I'm talking about. Anything I do, it doesn't matter if we're just screwing off or doing something. I'm going to go 110%. 110% down to the board.
Mm-hmm.
My guys were like cutting these boards, right? And we're just going to cut it 30 inches. And I said, it's not 30 inches. It's 30 inches and 3/4. Oh, what's a 3/4? It's going to fucking matter. And so I sent them back for the 30 inches and 3/4. And it's crazy because you look at my customer jobs, everything's like a frame. It's perfect. And I said, you would have fucked up. It would have been 3/4 on this side, and the customer wouldn't have given a shit because that's not what they're hiring us for. They're hiring us for the technology. But everything I do is perfect. Then they come back with my boxes, and the boxes are fucking broken. Oh, you know what? Everybody says, how in the fuck can you guys have a box, come back with the tools missing, but I have the exact same box, the exact same tools, and my shit still looks brand new. And I'm the multimillionaire. Mm-hmm. Like, that doesn't make any sense, right? I mean, you get in my old 100,000 miles, thing looks brand new. It's because I cherish everything I own. And that's why I think I get so much. If you're fucking up your shit, you're not going to get blessed. If you can't maintain what you got, well, then why should you have more? Mm-hmm. Right? You can't do it. You know, it's crazy. Like this Sunday, I went to do a cutover. and the client needed a job, and they're all there complaining, and I'm out there. I didn't call anybody. Put my tools belt on, jumped in my FJ, rolled the shit out, got that thing installed, came back, done deal. Monday morning they come in, everything's running. Oh, who came through? I said, I came like a thief of the night. But I don't need a recognition. I don't need to be giving you a play-by-play. Oh, you know what? I'll be there at 9 a.m. to make myself look good. I don't give that shit. Don't pad my back, pad my wallet. That's been my whole thing, my whole life. And I learned that from my father. You know, one time I came home as a kid complaining, 16 years old, working construction. And I'm like, Dad, they're saying this and this and that, and this guy's a dick. And he says, let me ask you a question, son. He says, when you go to the bank, is that guy with you? I said, no. He says, when you go cash your check, laugh all the way to the bank. And I've always stuck to that mentality. I'm gonna eat your bullshit sandwich because ultimately I care about when I cash that check at the bank. And I think that just what you're learning, Carson, is that at the end of the day, you make yourself happy, dude.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that was a big factor when I realized that was when I bought the Maserati. Because I bought it and everyone was talking shit. You know what I mean? And it was like, what the? And then at that point, I was like, you got to do things for yourself. Because even if you do something so badass, there's still going to be people who are finding.
What did you feel like when you got
like
the Maserati?
The shitty thing is I almost felt bad for even driving it, you know? Which is shitty, right? I should never have felt like that. I felt bad for having it. I never wanted to really enjoy it. And Jack would get pissed all the time. He's like, what the? You never drive the car, blah, blah, blah.
I should have taken that fucker. I should have just put the pipes on that bitch.
And that was just, I don't know if it was because it was the first time it's happened and people found out and I didn't even really proactively put it out there. And
he didn't do shit. He was quiet. I couldn't understand him.
I was quiet about it. And people were still finding ways to do it. And I wasn't flashy, none of that stuff. And I did it for myself, and it almost made me a big goal that I set myself to 23. I wanted to buy this car, did it, and it was pretty big to me. But it was like almost everyone kind of took that joy away from me because that's how I used to think. And then after that, I was like, the hell with this. I don't care what anyone thinks anymore because they took that moment from me in my life, you know.
But what I think about that. Okay, let's focus on that, and that's what I'm talking about in that mental capability. Let's put me in your shoes. Right? Let's see me. I got that Maserati 23. I bought a convertible Corvette. And people are trying to put the hate or this or, oh, so-and-so got this and all that. And you know what I was telling? You know, it's always funny, motherfucker. I said, it's always the guys that don't got the car that have the opinion. And I said, the closest you'll ever get to a Corvette, and I went to the Windex bottle in the gym. I got the Windex bottle in the car. I said, go clean those rims. That's the closest you'll ever get. And I should just get down and just rock down. People knew, right? But the thing about me, what I learned as a kid, that I was such a pleaser when I was a little boy, and I wanted everyone to love me, and I always had that whole thing, and I never got that. Then when I became an adult, like, I don't give a fuck. Like, you get in a verbal kung fu with me, you better have thick heart and skin, because you're going to want to commit suicide when I'm done with it. Because Carson will tell you, I'll just keep on coming and coming and coming, and I have, like, I'm literally like a deadly animal. Like, I don't have that, like it doesn't hurt me. Like, you know, you're putting the stabs in, and I'm like, you know what I mean? And so I think that's what I'm talking about, the mental toughness that I built. Yeah. And it was the nature nurture, right? Nature forced me to evolve to who I was. It wasn't like I made the choice. I was a soft kid, softer than soft. And the fucking universe said, you know what? You're not going to come out soft. I'm going to throw everything at you possibly to make you hard. Or, you know, it is. And I think that's what sucks, because Carson should have enjoyed those moments. I'd have been in that Maserati, like, go fuck yourself. But I tell you, the one thing is, and I think I told you this, and I did have a lot of that where you were when I was your age. But I can remember this. I remember sitting with Floyd Mayweather, and he's at I'm not going to say where we were, but we're at this place. And he says, and he's sitting there and he's talking to a guy, and I'm talking to Roger Mayweather, and he says, you know what? When I was Pretty Boy Floyd, and I did this, everyone had an opinion. They kept me down, this and that. When I became Money Mayweather, he says, I didn't give a fuck what anybody thinks. And now I'm making more money than anything. And he became this supreme athlete, right? And he said, all I'm going to focus on, and he, in his camp, right? He built his camp. He has his community. He had this, and he only stuck with his friends that were his and the guys that worked for him. And he just became the supreme athlete, strength and conditioning, fiercer than I've ever seen with anybody in my life. And so his attitude was like, fuck you, I don't care. You suck, I'm here. So I gotta say that when I saw that, I was actually influenced in that time period of my life. And I was about 30 years old, I think, about 29, 30. And in that moment, I said, you know what? If Floyd's saying fuck it, I'm saying fuck it.
Yeah.
And I walked out like a whole different man.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what I think what we talk about is that mental clarity is you may have your own family put you down. Your own friends that you think
Or
are
even
so
that.
good.
I had some people in my family that didn't even want to see that car.
Yeah.
And I was just like, you know? And then when I was in the relationship, her side of the family didn't even want to look at the car, nothing. And it was like, holy shit, I feel like a piece of shit with this thing, you know?
There's that Netflix series. There's a Black Mirror. They don't want to look in the reflection. They only want to. They look at their own inadequacies, and they project this negative attitude because they don't like the reflection that they look at, that they see in themselves in the mirror.
It
Or
taught
it's
me a
this.
lot, though.
I think what he's learned is this. I think Carson has learned in his life when you touch success, you want to be really, really inclusive. And what you realize is that you got to be exclusive. Like I'm an exclusive motherfucker. If you get invited to my house, that's far and few. You know I'm talking right now. You might get invited to the man cave, but you ain't gonna get invited to my house.
Yeah.
And what I've learned is that you have to be exclusive so that not everyone thinks that they can access you. They can't access you. They can't come in. You can't call Brad Pitt and be like, hey, dude, you just can't fucking do it. Right? You need to be at that level.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You look at Stallone, who does he hang with? You see it all the time. It's Stallone, Dolph Lundgren, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and fucking Jean-Claude Van Damme. Those dudes are good friends. Beasts. You see them, they're playing this or that. And that's what you got to understand. You got to find people of your mindset. And if you find 2 or 3, holy shit, you just hit the rock mine. And you find that good group of people. But I will tell you this, then you'll get the wives that try to fuck it up, or you'll get the friends that try to fuck it up, or you get someone that doesn't like this. And it's kind of like what me and Michael used to talk about. He says, you're the only guy that I know that's created such a persona, and you never asked for forgiveness, but everyone's so accepting of it. Because I never was attached to it. I didn't care. Right? I didn't come in and say, well, I wonder if these guys are going to like me or not. I didn't give a fuck. Hear me, see me, here you are, live and loud, I'm out. Just done deal. And he says, it works for you. And he's like, I can't do that. I could never do that. People would be like, oh, this, that. I don't give a damn. Right? I'm never going to be feeling sorry because I'm wearing a $100,000 AP at a charity. I'm just not. Like, I'm not going to feel sorry for that. Or like what Carson, the feeling's talking about, the Maserati, and you're kind of there wondering, is like, how's my family going to feel? Fuck my family. They made bad decisions. And I'm using that metaphorically, right? I'm not saying fuck my family because I don't really have any too much hatred to my family anymore because I cut them completely out of my life. But I'm not going to let you make me feel bad for something that I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to always get, you know how many charities you could do if you sold those cars, like what you could do and the people you could help? And I said, yeah, I probably could. I'll tell you what, you sell your car, I'll sell mine. And we'll both give it together. You got that big of a mouth. and they can't do it. Look, I tell you a fucking funny story. One of the first times me and him were hanging out, they asked us to do this car show event. And I'm like, cool, let's do it. And I want to support these guys. And we showed up at the airport. And some guy thinks that I just rolled in and didn't do the donation. Well, if you know anything about me, and it comes to kids and donations, I'm writing the biggest check. I always have, right? Not because of ego, because I'm just really about the kids. So he puts me on blast on social media and says, this guy rolled in with his Lambos with his boy, and he couldn't even pay the entry fee. You remember that? Mm-hmm. And so guess what I do? I hit him like 50 cents. And so I start calling him out on social media where it starts getting brutal. And I'm like, you know what? I want to have a call out. Let's rate this money. Whatever you can raise, I'll double it. You know what? I want him to match me. I'm putting 10,000. So he DMs me. Oh no, sorry.
Yeah,
I
he did.
I didn't see this, and
It's pretty funny.
I didn't understand that you gave the money. I said, motherfucker, you know what? You didn't check this, the money I gave. And so I'm about to just put him on the blast. What I learned is this. From that situation, I could have been like, oh, take the bigger high ground or this and that. No, fuck that. You know what? You're the clown in the fucking circus. I'm the lion.
Yeah.
The lion decided to eat the clown today.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what I'm talking about.
And you probably taught him a lesson to freaking think before you open your damn mouth,
Think before you open your mouth.
or find out
What-
truths before you open
A
your
lot
damn
of people don't do. You know,
know.
it's crazy.
A lot of
man.
people don't do. And at the end of the day, you just never know what's going on. I've been in experiences. I told Carson this. I'm not going to mention his name either. But I have a good friend who made big time in the UFC. And we're at this place in Las Lunas. And this cowboy, tall dude, is talking shit to him. This guy's pretty short, right? And all of a sudden, the guy's like, calm your shit down. And the guy's like, I'll fuck you up. That. And the guy outweighs him by 40 pounds. And he's literally, an honest, 11 inches taller than him. And so this UFC dude looks at me, and I'm just like, dude, and cracks him, right? Boom! And the guy goes sleepy poo right there, like just sleep, noodle. And I sat there and I thought, you're a fucking dumbass. You've seen this guy. How many times he's defeated? You don't get to the UFC because you're semi-good. You get to the UFC because you're damn good, right? And that's what I'm talking about. But guess what? I was always taught to shut your mouth because you might get shot.
Yeah, you don't know who that person knows that you just talked to. You know, it's just crazy. It's crazy. You never know.
You just never know.
Well, I bet you that kid's parents right now in Santa Fe is thinking that those exact same things. And I just had this discussion with my son just today. I'm like, because I keep sending him the articles and we talk about JB White and and I'm like, I know I tell him I wish it wasn't this way. I really wish it wasn't this way. I wish you could go out and enjoy yourself. And if you needed to, you could get into a fist fight, but that's just,
And that's the thing nowadays, it's not worth it at all. Me and one of my buddies were talking about that last night. And, when we were growing up, he was a crazy kid, man. He was always getting in fights and stuff. And I was like, yeah, and he's like, yeah, it's just not worth it now, man. He's like, someone's going to shoot me if I try to fight anyone. And I was like, yeah, exactly, dude.
Yeah, I tell my son that it's not worth it because then all the people I'm gonna fucking kill, that somebody hurts my son.
No, it's not gonna be work. And that's what I tell people too. Like, I'm not protecting you in a situation. I'm protecting you from myself. That's my famous line.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's like, you know what? You get a bunch of morons who just don't know. And the scary part is you're not gonna take the risk. I'm not taking chances.
No way.
I'm a zero risk taker, right? I don't even take risks on stocks. I'm more of I take the old Warren Buffett
You're in the
approach.
money market.
Yeah. You know what I'm trying to tell you? Yeah. That's just who I am. I don't give a crap. You can sell me all these dreams. I'm like, I don't care. I mean, I'm happy where I'm at. And, are you complacent? Absolutely. I said, I'm in a good place.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Are we on our hour?
Oh, we're over.
We're over.
No, we're not doing that tonight because eventually we're going to go to we're going to try to do Instagram Live so that we can shoot these shows so that we can get an increased platform, and then we're starting up the Truth Podcast on YouTube. So
YouTube.
Yeah, so we'll have that by next week. We'll get all that stuff set up. So.
Nice.
So I thought that was good. I think it was, we've been on for an hour and 20 minutes and it felt like nothing because I think it was really just a good discussion.
This was a good one.
Just about our life experiences and the mental and there's so many more things that we can talk about because I mean, even just, you look at veterans, 22 veterans a day killing themselves. I mean, that's horrific. That shouldn't happen in our country. Should not happen in our country. But even now, because of depression and having to deal with all these issues of isolation and unemployment.
But with all this stuff too, it's like, what are the numbers on, suicides now compared to COVID-19?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but we have COVID-19 in our face every single day when more people are dying from different issues every single day that we don't address.
I completely
it's
agree.
crazy.
It becomes, but again, it's the chaos media of what's the flavor of the month and what's the new thing, so.
Yeah, and that's what it's been. Seems like this whole year they're trying to find something, You know,
it's so funny.
And that's the day and age of 500 channels and entertainment at your fingertips. It's literally a battle of how can you bring people in so that, because, 20, 30 years ago, there were 3 channels, and okay. We grew up poor, and I couldn't watch music videos until Friday night after the news for a half an hour because we didn't have MTV. It was Friday night videos, and you got to watch like 4 music videos, and now kids can see everything,
Oh, yeah, it's crazy.
So, I mean,
it's insane.
So what you're saying, the only thing to watch is you should just watch sports and porn. Yeah. There's no negativity there.
I know.
You know what I mean? I think I'm just going to stick to
Except when they cry over calls, dude.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Holy shit, that's what I got out of today.
Hey, Jack said it, man.
Yeah.
Hey, I just get wild, baby. I just
There
get
we
wild.
go. Well, thanks. No, I think that was a good topic because that, the mental well-being, it's things that we need to address, but also
Especially right now, everyone has this like loss of hope, or hell with it, I'm taking a break, everyone else is in quarantine, and it's like, well, not really. That's kind of just an excuse for you to do nothing,
and our generation has never ever seen anything like this. I mean, there are people, probably in their 90s and 100s that lived through the Great Depression, that they can I know my grandfather, he used to tell me stories. My grandfather would never go camping. Never. He'd drive 3 hours, play horseshoes with us, eat lunch, and then drive 3 hours back.
Jack would do that.
That's me.
I know. Well, that's my grandfather. That's my grandfather. But the reason he wouldn't do it is he's all, I'm not sleeping outside.
Yeah.
He goes, I lived through the Great
Same
Depression. I'm not sleeping. I have a bed, and he lived till he was 92. But he worked in the CCCs, and he was a kid that lived during the Great Depression. But that's what I'm saying is those generations for the most part haven't experienced. And we haven't seen even the social, the economic implications of this, the mental implications of this. It's just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
What I'm hoping, John, is that we fucking bootstrap our shit. And we forget the implications and just march on every single wedding.
That's what we have to do.
That's what I'm hoping.
And that's the thing too, is we talked about it a lot of times in previous episodes. It's like certain people can use this as an excuse, or certain people can understand that they have more time on their hands and move forward. I mean, in the middle of this, I launched my own real estate team, and it's just, or I could have sat there and been like, oh yeah, cool, I got money in the bank, I'm just gonna screw off.
Be complacent, or
But
you
I
want to
took the
continue
time,
to
since
flourish.
I had more time, to build a business plan and figure out what I wanted to do and get everything taken care of to launch, and that's what I did. So now, even when everything's running now too, just one of those things.
Yeah.
So, guys, I want to conclude this with you guys out there, is that, again, you know what, pull your bootstraps up, check where your mental health's at. Ultimately, if you're feeling like, you know what, you need the help, there's a lot of help out there with the hotlines if you really feel like taking your life. But ultimately, for the people that aren't at that level, life's not that serious. And so I'm telling you, there's a million people out there that got 1,000,000 times worse than you. So bootstrap your shit, figure out what you're going to do, put a small game plan, accomplish something small. But we're out for today.
Exactly. See you guys next week.
Harmonix Technologies, your New Mexico business IT solution. With incredible products that will fit your needs both big and small, and unmatched service, it's your vision delivered. Learn how we can help your business roar into action today. Harmonix Technologies, your New Mexico business IT solution.